It's that time of year again when the days get shorter and the leaves on the trees are dropping just as fast as the evening temperatures. Our favorite teams are on the field, and if you're driving in your car right now to head out of town, you will notice that our farmers are in the field. That's Iowa. There's something comforting about the predictability of the seasons. It seems like nothing else is predictable in 2020, am I right? There are changes in how we work, where we work, or if we're working at all. The pandemic turned Iowa's enviable unemployment rate of 2.7% to a high of 11% in April. It's half that now, and that still puts our unemployment rate well below the national average. In trying times when few things are predictable, at least we know of certain things that keep us sustainable, certain aspects of the state that keep us going. Yes, I'm talking about Iowa agriculture. Even if you don't live on a farm, agriculture helps to sustain Iowa's economy. When I heard about a new study that shows how pig farming in particular helps power Iowa's economy, I just had to learn more. And if you're ready for some good news, I invite you now to take a load off and listen in as we begin our next ChopTalk chat with a guy who isn't a pig farmer, but perhaps like you, has a job thanks to pig farming. I'm here now with Drew Mogler, who is the Public Policy Director with Iowa Pork Producers. Nice to see you. And you're a livestock farmer's family kid as well, right? You grew up on a farm.
Yeah, grew up on my family's farm up in far northwest Iowa, Lyon County. It's a fourth-generation farm. My dad farms with his brothers. My grandfather is still involved in the operation. Just turned 89 this year and is still out there every day.
Nice.
And then I have an older sister and several cousins back on the farm as well.
So I know that you have long known how important pig farming is to the family, to the community, to the counties where you live. You've seen it, but now as a public policy director statewide, you see this as well, and you interact with a lot of Iowa pig farmers, all different sizes, diversities, types of practices. It's a big business.
Absolutely, and growing up in a rural county like Lyon County, really agriculture is the bedrock of that entire county's economic activity. And so now on staff with the Iowa Pork Producers Association, I've had an opportunity to see that really across much of rural Iowa, and really what we're going to talk about today, how the livestock industry and specifically the pork industry is really an economic engine in rural parts of the state.
Well, a lot of people might not realize that. Perhaps they get their bacon on a stick at the state fair. They love their pork chops. They love that type of thing. But they don't see, perhaps, the other side of the economic engine that drives this state. Whether you farm or not, it definitely has an impact.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of things that go into getting from the, having a pig being born to the time it turns into something delicious like a bacon on a stick at the Iowa State Fair. You've got the farmers raising it, you've got truck drivers and feed mills that are helping supply that farm while the pig is growing, and then you've got the processing and harvest facilities in the state as well that turn that into that final product. And so all of those different aspects of the pork industry really compound and create this huge economic engine in different parts of the state.
Well, it's kind of nice to break it down and look at these specific numbers as they relate to everybody, right?
Absolutely.
Listening to this podcast. So why don't we break it down? I know you did a study, or you commissioned a study. So tell me about it. How does it look? How many jobs, for one thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have done this study a couple different times now. We first did one in 2017 and now updated that here in 2020. And just from the jobs numbers specifically, the pork industry in Iowa supports over 147,000 jobs. And that's from the folks working in the hog production side of the industry to the folks engaged in the harvesting and processing side of the industry too. And 147,000 is a really big number, but to kind of give you a little perspective on what that looks like, obviously we don't have fans in the stands at sporting events right now, but if you were to take the capacity of Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City, Jack Trice Stadium in Ames, and the Unidome in Cedar Falls, that equals about that 147,000 people. So
Put them all together.
put them all together, absolutely. So on game day weekend in the fall in Iowa, if we had 147,000 screaming fans cheering on their football teams, that's about what the Iowa pork industry supports for jobs in rural communities across the state of Iowa, which is a really big impact.
That's incredible, and especially considering how much we're talking about sports right now and what that means in this current day and age. But boy, jobs, pigs are people, are jobs.
Absolutely. Right? And I think one of the things that we've seen highlighted throughout this pandemic is those are essential jobs as well. There was a lot of questions and uncertainty about the food supply chain and how do we keep folks fed and how do we keep a steady supply of food into the grocery stores for people to continue to access throughout this pandemic. That's 147,000 essential jobs, people who have to show up to work every single day. And we've really seen the importance of making sure that those folks who are working with the animals or working in our harvest facilities are able to stay safe as well. And I think that, a lot of people realize the importance of those jobs as well when you started to see perhaps some shortages in the grocery stores or prices being increased, whether at the grocery stores or restaurants, that those are really important parts of the food supply chain.
Oh, no doubt about it. Well, tell me, what other some interesting numbers about that too, about the study that you found?
Yeah, so overall, the pork industry in Iowa generates over $40 billion worth of economic activity. And so that comes from like I said before, the production of the pigs as well as the harvesting and processing of those pigs. And
so that's 40 billion with a B.
Correct,
wow.
Yes, which is a very big number. And in today, we hear a lot about numbers getting thrown around, especially when we talk about COVID relief and things like that, and a lot of billions with a B being talked about that. It's a big number, but that does make a big impact. Specifically, one of the things we missed this year in 2020 was the Iowa State Fair. And that was a big hit economically just to the city of Des Moines in central Iowa because it generates about $100 million of economic activity. Well, $40 billion of economic activity would be equal to like 400 state fairs every single year taking place. And so if you think about the million people plus that show up at the Iowa State Fair every year, eating pork chops on a stick or enjoying their favorite craft beer or corn dogs or whatever it may be, that's a lot of economic activity that happens at the Iowa State Fair every year. But the pork industry generates 400 times that every single year throughout the state of Iowa.
That's incredible. And that really brings it home to people, I think, because they're like, boy, everybody they know goes to the state fair. It's an annual trek, especially if you are from rural Iowa as well or urban Iowa. You're like, well, I really miss the fair.
Yeah.
I miss the fair. But, you magnify that so big just looking at one industry in particular, and that's pig farming.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not just pig farmers on the farm that are raising the animals and the caretakers for that. There's a lot of other things that go into it as well. We think of veterinarians that are providing health advice to farmers to keep their animals healthy. You think about even like the induced or indirect jobs that help support that as well. I remember hearing a story about when they built the pork harvest facility over in Sioux City, Iowa. There was multiple industries that popped up several years after that plant got built, whether it be someone building pallets to be able to haul all that pork out of that facility. This industry supports a lot of other jobs and industries as well, and induced and indirect employment and economic activity as well.
So it's not just the farmer, but it's the people who work in support of them, folks constructing barns, veterinarians servicing them, all these other little things, but also families we're talking about. They come and work at the processing centers, they come and work on the farms. They have kids in the local schools. It really is a trickle effect.
Absolutely. And so those 147,000 jobs that we talked about also provides about $6.8 billion worth of household income in the state of Iowa as well. And so if you think about those folks who are then earning wages from the pork industry are going into their local community and shopping at their local grocery store, they're going to their local hardware store, they're supporting different financial businesses, banks, insurance companies, financial advisors, things like that, which is all helping those Main Street businesses in rural communities across the state.
Oh, absolutely. And also, when you look at how much farming has changed, and pig farming has changed, certainly from the day when I was growing up on a pig farm. So some things do adjust, some things change, the size of the farm, the number of animals they raise. There's just so much efficiency in the business right now. And frankly, diversity too. So you've got big and you've got small.
Absolutely, yeah. We've certainly seen the size of pig farms continue to grow, and that's been a trend that we've seen over the last few years. But those farms are utilizing the best technology in these barns. We're talking about pigs that are raised in environmentally controlled facilities with cutting-edge technology and precision agriculture to be able to raise pigs in comfortable environments. The other thing that's really beneficial for raising pigs in Iowa is we have such an abundance of corn and soybeans to be able to feed these animals as well. And so pigs raised in Iowa consume over 3 million acres worth of corn and over 2 million acres of soybeans. So sometimes we like to talk about farmers who have a diverse operation with both crops and livestock are able to add value to their crops by walking those commodities off the farm through livestock production. So that's a really big kind of multiplier effect when we talk about the economics as well, because that 3 million acres of corn equates to over 20% of Iowa's corn acres, and the 2 million acres of soybeans is over almost 25% of our soybean acres in the state of Iowa. So not only when we talk about jobs and labor income and value-added economic activity, we're also providing a very key market to those farmers who are raising corn and soybeans as well.
Another interesting aspect of this study, I think that you guys look at how the size of farms changes in Iowa, because you said you've done this study before. Mm-hmm. So to that end, what did you find in this study? Big, small, growing? What did you think?
Yeah, so the pork industry overall in Iowa has grown the number of pigs about 3% year over year since we've done this study in 2017. And we've also seen that some of the larger farms have grown, and the number of farms that have gotten bigger have grown. But we still do have a lot of those smaller farms in the state of Iowa as well. And so when we look at some of those smaller or niche markets in the state of Iowa, companies like Nyman Ranch, for example, or the Lynch family, who are getting into some of those niche markets, have also grown in their establishment in Iowa as well. And I think that's a true testament to the diversity that we have of the pork industry in the state of Iowa. You can look at some of the, kind of top 40 players in the pork industry who all have a presence in Iowa, but we also have those niche markets as well for producers to be able to market their animals into those channels. And so I think Iowa really, that is what makes our industry really strong. It makes our organization really strong, that we have the diversity of voices at the table, of whether it's small, mid-sized, medium, or large farmers.
Which is, I think, what a lot of people need to know and may not. It's one of those, if you only hit Google, you're going to miss that other side of the story, and that's talking to farmers, both small and large, and the folks in the middle. That's all a part of what it takes to be pig farming in Iowa.
Absolutely. And livestock production continues to be a good way for young people to get involved in agriculture. So with contract production, it's a good way for a young farmer to get a start in agriculture, a start in farming, and be able to build up equity, be able to come back and transition to ownership of a family's farm. Just looking at building a typical 2,400 head barn, for example, is about $2.5 million worth of economic activity and provides about 12 full-time jobs, either through the construction or operation of that barn. And that's not just, like we talked about earlier, of jobs taking care of the animals every day, but you have to think about the feed mill that's providing feed every single day, or the truck driver bringing feed to that barn, or in the wintertime, the driver who's bringing LP gas to heat the barn for those animals. It's very much induced and indirect jobs that are also supporting this industry as well.
And you really got to get outside of your big city to know that, to take a drive and to see it, because it might not be real obvious, and it might not be the folks that you even meet, but they are a part of pig farming.
And one of the interesting things that we've seen over the last 5 years in Iowa as well is we've added 2 new pork processing plants. And those are companies that didn't have a footprint in the state of Iowa previous to this, and so that is new market access for those folks as well. And so we talk about concentration in the industry on the production side of things sometimes, but on our packing processing side, we've added 2 new companies that are buying pigs from independent producers that we didn't have 5 years ago. And so we've actually seen a little bit of a decrease in concentration on pork processing in the state and in the Midwest region, really, over the last few years.
Well, it's nice when they build the plants where the pigs already are.
Absolutely.
But there aren't a lot of jobs, so they bring the jobs.
Absolutely, yeah. One of these pork processing plants can employ up to 1,000 people per shift. And so if you have a plant that's running 2 shifts, you can have 3,000 jobs. And in a rural area, that can make a huge difference. I think of even in my home county of Lyon County, the largest employer is probably a couple hundred jobs, and that's a county of 12,000 people. But then if you look at the pork industry, it's almost 1,500 jobs. So an industry alone can be, multiples of what the largest employer in one of those rural counties really is.
And that's really incredible when you see how they sustain the restaurants and Main Street and schools and, boy, you name it.
Absolutely, yeah, it really is.
Speaking of Main Street, there are many of them struggling in some parts of Iowa. Even before COVID, small towns work hard to keep businesses open and people shopping, eating, living in rural Iowa. To get that side of the story, I'd like to take you back to a Main Street familiar to many in north central Iowa, including myself. Let's find out how pigs are impacting people, businesses, and the economy of Eagle Grove. I'm here with Bryce Davis, the city administrator of Eagle Grove. Welcome, nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Here we are in Eagle Grove. I'm familiar with this town because I grew up here, but I know that things change over the years, and it's nice to see the changes that have come here in Eagle Grove, a lot of it because of pig farming.
Yeah, in my past life, I was Wright County economic developer, and I dealt a lot with the pig industry and agriculture in general to better understand the economic portfolio of Wright County. We do have a lot of growing operations in Wright County, and one of the ways that we learn to bring in a vertical integrator of that supply chain is by bringing a pork processor to keep those hogs in the county to create jobs and economic value, as well as to expand the community of Eagle Grove. I transitioned into city administration about 3 years ago, and I don't have as much to do with the agriculture economy of Wright County anymore. We are seeing those benefits of pig farming and pig processing in general.
Well, you can see why they chose this place because the pig farms were already here.
Absolutely. It makes a lot more sense to grow those pigs where the food supply is and then process those pigs into case-ready pork and eventually make bacon all in one location.
Big fan of bacon.
Absolutely.
A lot of folks.
Absolutely.
Big fans. Well, tell me how things have changed then, how they've evolved here in this town because of that in the last couple of years, because you've seen it happen. You've been on the front line.
Correct. Yep. What we've seen is a marvelous transition in our rental and our home market. So the average house of a ranch property went up $25,000 almost overnight, which individuals in every type of industry and job just created equity overnight because of this vertical integration. The rent market, we were used to seeing $350 rents per month. Now we're seeing anywhere from $650 to $750 a month, which justifies new construction, which broadens the tax base, helps out every taxpayer. It also increases the amount of utilities that are paying those fixed and variable costs, which obviously decreases the amount per person. So overall, we've seen just instant equity and a reduction of living expenses for the majority of individuals. We've been able to increase our public safety and invest in a new ladder truck. It's a 107-foot aerial ladder truck. We've been able to invest in new squad cars and new technology to help the police department. We've been able to purchase a new ambulance and add on more emergency medical technicians to have a better response for the communities that we serve, Eagle Grove and Goldfield. We've been able to invest in infrastructure without raising rates. So we just put on a $28 million wastewater reclamation facility with raising the average rate of $10 per month per individual, which is far less than most communities that have had to increase or build a new plant. We've invested in water projects and wastewater projects, as well as increased our investment in roadways because of additional traffic means additional road use tax.
So those ripple effects keep going, and even when you drive downtown, you're noticing more businesses.
Yes, yep. We've actually authorized a contract to renovate 6 buildings downtown with the help of state funding and community development block grant funding, which is a federal program. We've received about $2.2 million in grant funding to renovate downtown. We received $300,000 in grants for building owners, and we have another building owner, which was a 1922 Ford dealership that was abandoned for about 10 years, that an individual purchased that building for storage, and now they're investing about $350,000 into creating 6 apartments, a vibrant storefront, as well as creating more of a staple downtown.
That's just incredible, and especially someone like me who grew up here, it's nice to see.
Yes, absolutely. It's progress, and I think progress allows for more progress to continue because people start to see what could be, and we have a lot more projects on the horizon with our parks, with more infrastructure projects and more residential developments to kind of continue that catalyst that we've seen because of pig farming.
Well, and it's nice to see more people, more families, and more kids in the schools.
I've been told over the last 2 years we've increased student enrollment by over 110 students.
Wow.
Which is a tremendous amount from a funding standpoint. And years ago we were talking about a county school. Now we're talking about building a brand new school. So there's a lot of a different change in the way that we think and the way that we need to think moving forward. So if we have places for them to live that provides that accommodation for an affordable rate, we want to make sure that we're that choice so that they don't go to a different community. We want to make sure that our downtown is vibrant, so we're making massive investments into there. We're making investments into the small business growth to make sure that we have places for individuals to shop so we don't turn into a bedroom community. And we're making investments in our recreation, so we are looking at a rec center to add to the quality of life for individuals. And eventually we're going to add on to our hotel that we just built and completed in July of 2020. We're going to add on an event center that allows individuals to have parties, get married, have presentations or corporate outings, and just really add to the amenities list.
It is important to think about community, how we live, work, and support each other. And you know, with pig farms in every county in this state, you may not realize how much pig farming impacts your communities. Pigs and people bound together in a cycle of sustainability. Come with me now to northeastern Iowa and Buchanan County. It's a place with a small population, but a strong sense of community. I'm here on the farm now in Buchanan County with Trish Cook, livestock farmer, pig farmer's daughter as well. So here we are. This is a beautiful setting, and your pigs are just right over there behind the bushes. You'd never know it just sitting here. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we have enjoyed living here on this farm with pigs for many years, and I don't even think twice that I have pigs in my backyard. That's just the way of life here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell me about your farm.
Well, my husband and I both graduated from Iowa State in 1994, and he came home. His degree was in ag studies, and he knew he wanted to farm. So he started with the family farm. My degree was in accounting, so I never thought I would be involved with the farm. I was going to have the big city job, and I was going to work in finance and accounting, and that was what my future was going to be. So it worked well together. We had 3 children. After about 11 years, our farm was growing, and there was opportunity that I could use some of my resources here on the farm. So I quit my job that had the health insurance and all the stability, and wanted to spend more time with our family and then also get more involved with the farm. So that was the same time we built the hog buildings that we have on the farm where we live right now. So it was really exciting and scary at the same time, leaving something that was more stable and familiar and going into what was more unknown but yet exciting because we could do it together.
Well, and as a numbers person and a finance person, a person with the accounting, you certainly know the importance of it all has to, keep it in the black. You have to keep growing, and you have to remain sustainable. And livestock farming is a way in for so many young folks.
That's very true. A lot of agriculture does require a lot of capital, a lot of money, and we found at that point of our lives it was the easiest way for us to enter into agriculture was through livestock, through hog farming. It was just, as you said, I kind of put pencil to paper, and he does as well. We could make things cash flow better, and we love livestock. So we went into the hog industry versus doing just grains and crops. It's really hard to get acres. It's really hard to make that be profitable on a regular basis. So we decided to go with some sweat equity and something that was going to take labor every single day, and that was with the hogs.
And you have so many factors to consider, not the least of which is location and size and how everything looks to folks who don't farm. And here you are, you've got a busy road near us and cars going by, and they see it all.
Right, yeah. I mean, we're an open book right here. We're on a fairly busy highway. Our hog buildings are offset enough that we try and have the biosecurity distance from the road, so passing trucks aren't, we're not sharing some of the same airspace just because they're off the road a little bit, but it's right here. We are. Everyone can see. They know we have hog buildings, so there's no hidden secret about that.
Well, and it's so well managed, and so, it's, like I said, a beautiful spot, and I know it's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we have on our farm 4 employees that aren't part of our family that we feel very lucky to have such great staff to help us run the day-to-day operations of our farm. We have a feed mill on the farm right now, and that takes a lot of my husband's and my time as well. We can hear it in the background now. The kind of the low hum. It's the leg. It's moving feed from when it's ground in the mixer to put it into the truck. So that's what we're hearing back there. But so it takes a lot of management of resources to make sure we have all of the ingredients. I kind of feel like when you make hog feed, it's kind of like a recipe. You've got a number of ingredients you need to have, and you have to measure those out. And for us, it's automated, but it's still important. You have to have all the ingredients to make feed be what it's supposed to be for nutrition and balance for their health and growth.
Well, that's part of that sustainability, is having a feed mill here where you can take care of it on that end, right? Because
That's
again,
correct.
that's another expensive endeavor.
It is an expensive endeavor, and we could control a little bit more about the source of our ingredients that we put into our hog feed. So we can control where the corn comes from. So we use all the corn that we grow, plus we grind feed for his dad's pigs and use all the corn that they grow, plus we source corn, and we're just trying to get from the best quality ingredients that we can get for what we're feeding our animals.
And now you have the sows here, right?
Correct.
And now for folks who aren't familiar with how that all works, we want to tell them about it.
Yeah, so I said this is our sow farm. This is where the mama pigs are at. And this is where the mom pigs are going to have their baby piglets. On our farm and in most hog farms that are today, they're bred by artificial insemination. So we have boars on our farm, but they're not used to actually inseminate the animals. It's done artificially, and then we keep records of what day they were bred, and we'll know when that animal it will be due to farrow. So that's when we talk about a sow farm. It's moms and babies on the farm.
And that takes constant vigilance, doesn't it? No wonder you have to have employees to help out.
Yeah, we have pigs farrowing every day. It could be every hour of the day. They don't know that it's Monday through Friday or Saturday, Sunday. So there's a lot of farrowing happening and breeding. They breed the animals every single day. So it's definitely something that it's not just check the box. It's really important to have vigilance and attention to detail.
Well, tell me about that team approach that it takes to make a sow farm work, to make your family farm work. Because, like I said, we talked about, you and I had chatted before about ripples, because pigs are people, are jobs. And what does it take to make this work for you?
Well, communication, I always say, is the key to success or failure of any organization. And so it's really important on our farm as it is in any business or any farm. We all have our own responsibilities that we're day-to-day responsible for, but that also means we need to communicate with the other staff members so that we all know what each other is doing and that everything gets covered. So for example, I'm not in the sow farm on a physical basis, but I am in contact with them almost every day. We're doing records together, production records, financial records, ordering supplies. With the feed mill, my husband does all the feed delivery, but I order all of the ingredients, and so we're always having to communicate about what are we going to need to do this week, or what groups we might be finishing, so it's just a constant communication.
Well, and you think of the people that you employ and the people whose expertise you tap into, like a veterinarian, right?
Right. We do work with a local veterinarian. We do work with local farmers who also truck a lot of commodities. So they will haul in our dried distiller grains, our soybean meal, our corn. We work with people who are going to haul our livestock to town. We don't own our own semi, so we work with people who are going to haul our livestock to the facilities.
And those are more jobs.
And those are more jobs. We buy feed ingredients from not just local people like farmers nearby. We also are buying premix from a company, and they're always working with us on nutrition. So, the list is long of the people that we talk to on a daily basis in our communities and in the state of Iowa.
That's amazing. And tell me about the 4 employees that you have, and do they have families here? They're around here?
Yeah, our 4 employees are all from within a 20-mile area of where our farm is right now. One was a neighbor. We watched him grow up down the road, and he always wanted to be involved in agriculture. And so we were really fortunate when he graduated high school. He was not interested in pursuing any type of additional career outside of farming. And we had welcomed him to our farm. He hadn't worked with pigs before, so he was a little unsure, but once he got in, he loves doing it. He loves the baby piglets. That's his favorite part. And another of our employees graduated from Iowa State with a degree in agricultural business and wanted to come back to the area, and so he was working with his family farm, but it wasn't going to be full-time employment. So coupled with what he's doing here, it was a really great mix for him to be able to have full-time employment and work with the family farm. And then our other 2 employees were actually a married couple. They work on the farm here, and it's fun to see. She was not at all from agriculture, and so when she decided she wanted to come work here, she didn't really know if she was going to enjoy it, and she does. Again, she works in the farrowing with the baby pigs, and she really does enjoy that.
Isn't that incredible when you think of it? And all these folks, depending on their age and their background and their interest, then they have families that go to schools around here.
Right.
And all of that. The ripples, then they buy their products here and cars and work here and live here.
Aaron, my husband, and I are both involved with our local county pork producer organization, and we do a lot to promote pork, educate people about pork. Both of those are promotion, education, and research, of course, are the 3 pieces of the pork checkoff. And part of what we do at a local level is just try and keep our local community always knowing about what we're up to for pork producers. They can see our buildings, but they also see us a lot. We will grill at a local football game and donate the pork burgers and our grilling to the local concession stand, so their activity fund can pay for uniforms or whatever else needs to go on.
Activities and fall gatherings, anything that brings people together and keeps us connected, are so vital right now, especially with so much turmoil going on in 2020. And that leads to our next Chop Talk. Whether you live in one or not, rural communities in Iowa are celebrated for their wide open spaces, where people can work for weeks on end without seeing anyone else, simply because of geography. And while the quiet mental fortitude of farmers is a long admired character asset in this state, we also know their stoic nature can make it even more difficult for them to ask for help when they need it. You know what? There are times in our lives when we all need help. How do Iowa farmers find emotional support? I'm Lori Johns. We'll cover that crucial story in our next Chop Talk. Won't you join me?